coming up in 27 years in this business. I've led very large teams, very small teams, all sizes in between. It's the toughest 2 years of my career. I'm sure if you're a new leader in that kind of haze of, try to retain and motivate staff, it would have been really tough, just because you win doesn't mean someone else has to lose, right? Because they don't feel that you really get tech, that you're just a manager. That can be an issue. You'll lose respect and you'll lose trust. He said that to a few of us one time. Do the job no one else wants, and if you do that, you'll get more opportunities and more opportunities. And I did, and that was when I was in Fleetmatics. I did that. I did loads of jobs that no one else wanted, and I became CTO. So I think it worked.
Nick, welcome onto the podcast.
Thank you. It's only been 5 years since you've asked me to come on. I finally got here.
Finally dragged you on.
Yeah.
Most recently, currently CTO at Cubic Telecom.
Yeah.
Before that, almost a decade, had an Irish company called Fleetmatics, which is then acquired for over $2 billion by Verizon. Tell us a bit about that journey.
Yeah, so I was working in a company called HMH, Mifflin Hardcore, so publishers, and got a cold call one day, and I usually don't pick up cold calls, and it was a no number, so I was just by accident answered it. This agency was on, said, this cool Irish company called Fleetmatics, they have a really interesting product. Do you want to go and talk to them? And it's like, okay, right, I'll have a chat to him. Went in and met the head of development, met the CTO, and I was kind of hooked, CTO was Peter Mitchell, really kind of visionary kind of guy. He was co-founder. He's still there, actually, in the broader Verizon, because Verizon bought them in 2016. But that was a whirlwind. I started as a dev manager. We were launching our flagship product, so I delivered that. I then went on and I pitched to them, look, like a lot of startups and small companies, they 50 in product engineering at the time. No architecture, right? So devs doing all the architecture and stuff like that. And, you're trying to build your flagship product. So I pitched to them, look, I have an architecture background in Fidelity Investments and Unum and HMH. So I said, maybe give me a shot as the chief architect. They did, set up an architecture function, set it up with about 2 people. By the time I grew that then to 20, 30 people, 100, a couple of 100, I ran platform engineering, that's what it morphed into. So I was running ops, like DevOps, level 3 support, security one stage, architecture, all the IoT development, and countless other, all the kind of core services for their products. And then we got bought by Verizon 2016, 2.4 billion. I think it was the largest sale, it still is, of an Irish software company. And then Verizon bought probably 2 or 3 other companies in the same space, the telematics and fleet management space, just to try to get into that business. And then they kind of smushed us all together. Now, we had been on a acquisition spree at the same time. So we had bought 6, 7, maybe 8 companies, Fleetmatics. That was an interesting experience for me because I was technically vetting a lot of these small companies at the time. And it was just something new. I've never done acquisitions or anything like that. So it was an experience you just don't get in an Irish company, right? And then we got bought by Verizon, and it was more like a merger as well. So we had to merge all these companies together. I took over platform engineering for all the companies. And then eventually in the last year and a half, I got the CTO role. So at the height of it, we were probably 1,200 in product and engineering, and so I was running services for all the 1,200. I had about a team of 400 or 500. We carved some products off, split some of the division up, but after a while, various restructures in Verizon, and the group I took over, we had about 700 or 800 in product engineering, with 600 engineers. That was an interesting time because it was over COVID and
very interesting. Yeah, people talk about imposter syndrome, when you're leading so many people, but do you think there was a difference that you built it rather than inherited that amount?
Yeah, some of it's through the acquisitions as well, but I had to assimilate, even though we acquired companies, it was left you know, they kind of go, well, there's this small engineering group over here. You take them on and assimilate their products. I mean, I had 15 or 16 platforms I had to figure out how to shut down. I mean, I shut down 5 of them in 1 year at one stage, right? So it was a massive migration and integrations, and we took a big monolithic architecture and broke it up into microservices, create a real DevOps culture in the place. So it was a kind of really interesting time, and so I'm trying to do with Cubic now as well. But the imposter syndrome is always there for every leader. It never goes away, right? And it's always hits at your lowest. Yeah, you have good days and your bad days. Even now in this role, there's days when you go, you know what, really making a difference here. Even though it's small changes I'm making, I can see the difference. And then there's other days you go and go, you know, am I making a difference? You know, you question yourself sometimes, you know. And I think any leader that says they don't, like, yeah, I think they do in their quiet moments at home. They probably do question themselves sometimes. Am I making a difference or not? You know, especially when your teams get bigger and bigger. When you're running multiple, 500-600 people, you know, sometimes you wonder, am I getting through it all? You know, but it's for me, it's about constant communication. At that level, you have to continually communicate. You have to find ways of communicating, because you can't meet everybody, right? You know, and COVID was tough that way, right? So I had to do a lot more, town halls, a lot more round tables, a lot more skip levels, even small little videos I used to post out every time of some of the strategy we were doing and stuff like that. I used to do it on Slack, and you know, it was a different time because you just can't meet people in person, you know. And I had 7 or 8, 9 centers across the globe on 4 different continents. So we literally was from New Zealand all the way over to the west coast of the US. So yeah,
difficult time. Obviously COVID was for everyone, especially leaders. What did you learn about yourself during that time as a leader?
I probably got better at my communication with teams, as I said before. I think that would be the main area. I found COVID the toughest 2 years of my career. I'm 20, coming up in 27 years in this business. I've led very large teams, very small teams, you know, all sizes in between. So on quite a bit in my career. But that was the toughest. Motivating people, retaining staff, people walking in going, I'm going to X company for, 10, 20, 30, 40K more. It was insane. It's just an insane time. And the expectations of staff was probably, trying to manage their expectations. You know, we're a company, we have budgetary constraints. We have to watch our financial. We have to, we do have to make a profit. We have to grow. And trying to get that across to people in that crazy time of, such and such is moving to one of the big guys for crazy money.
Yeah,
I want crazy money. It was tough now. It's tough. I think a lot of leaders got tested. You could really see it, and we found that we lost a lot of staff. We were promoting people up because we had no choice. We had to get people to manage the teams. You couldn't have a manager managing 20 or 30 people, and we're throwing people in at the deep end. And some leaders really stepped up, and some struggled. Because it was the toughest 2 years of my career. I'm sure if you're a new leader in that kind of haze of try to retain and motivate staff, it would have been really tough.
Yeah, even tougher. Yeah,
I mean, I had at that time 25 years or 24 years of leadership experience behind me. But I'd say for new leaders, it was really tough.
Looking at the leaders who did step up, would you say there was a common trait or one or two common traits?
Yeah, sometimes like people have a little ambition, a bit of drive. They wanted to further their careers. I think some got into like everyone did in COVID, right? I mean, people's mood dropped a lot in COVID, right? Outside of work, it was a tough time for a lot of people. That's one thing I had to kind of balance as well. There's driving a team, but also remembering what the human side, what people are going through, because it was tough for them. Some leaders could compartmentalize that. I felt I could a little bit as well and leave that outside and, get on with the job. And I think those that could probably stepped up a bit more,
Yeah, yeah. I'd say even empathy is a massive thing, isn't it?
Yeah. And I wouldn't say I'm the most empathetic leader. I think it's one of those things I struggle with. It's one of my weaknesses. You do strengths finders, right? I've done a few of them, and the empathy was always quite low. My wife says differently. She would say, no, I am, but I think empathy is more putting yourself in their shoes. Probably not that way, but I do understand, and I do try to understand what people are going through, but yeah, it's just always been a struggle for me, I would say. Yeah.
Well, I believe your wife, so maybe.
Let's go with that. You're always more critical. Well, I find I'm more critical of myself.
Yeah,
and I think you are as a person, human being, you tend to be more critical of yourself.
Yeah, no, 100%. When scaling businesses, obviously there's so many unforeseen things. What would you say were the biggest challenges, or is that one that you named there? Obviously, going through COVID, was there anything?
Scaling businesses is getting buy-in a lot of times. You can build a lot of stuff. You can have the greatest vision and strategy. You have to constantly communicate. So I thought about this a few times in conferences and things like that. Is the power of 7 or the theory of 7. It's a marketing term, and it's basically you have to communicate your message 7 times before someone will buy into it. Now the number is arbitrary, right? It just means you have to constantly communicate. If this is your vision, if you don't get out there, get into rooms, constantly use every opportunity you can to tell people this is what we're doing. Because then you tell them once at a town hall, that's great. And then you get it, well, no one told me, right? Someone's not listening, they're kind of, you know what I mean? They're kind of daydreaming, they're not hearing, or you say it in 1 or 2 meetings and they don't get it. You have to constantly enforce it, right? Or, reinforce it all the time, So that's one of the challenges, getting people to buy into it, right? And setting that culture. So, I mean, now in Cubic, I'm trying to move us from a smaller software organization where everyone's in the one room, it's easy to communicate, it's easy to get stuff done. As you start growing, you start to creak a little bit, and what you tend to do is you put more process in, and then you put more process in, and process tends to slow you down more, right? So you have to restructure how the teams work, getting into small little autonomous units, give them more support staff around them so that those autonomous units have everything they need to be successful. You got to change the architecture. You got to change how you deploy software, and so on, right? And it's about, I'm a big fan of lean, so I do a lot of in a lot of companies I've worked in, I've tried to bring lean in, and starting to bring it into Cubic. We were a big lean house in Fleetmonic / Verizon Connect. It was very successful. Probably the most successful I've seen with any agile or lean implementation was there because all the leaders bought into it. But lean is one of the key things, is optimizing the whole. So we tend to look at one part of the problem and we solve that, and then it's whack-a-mole. You look into another part of the problem and you solve that. Whereas lean looks at optimizing the whole. So when you're delivering software, you'll look at how teams are organized, your architecture, the processes you have in place, all the way down the stack, right? If you just solve one problem, which a lot of companies do, they tend to bring Scrum or Kanban in and think that's doing agile. They really struggle. And then they wonder then why things are getting so slow. So then they put more process in and they get slower, and then they put more process in, right? I gave a whole talk at Ali one year, Agile Lean Ireland, on this before, around this topic.
Yeah. Do you believe then, you're obviously in a CTO position, but you're very technical, you come from a background of being a chief architect. Yeah. How big of an advantage is that? Especially when I was getting buy-in.
I was a reluctant leader, I would say. Even when I was young, even in school or when I was working part-time jobs, people used to kind of, I probably had natural leadership traits that I didn't even know about, and people would kind of, I expect better from you, or I expect you to lead the team or whatever, and I was always reluctant at that, right? Especially when I was working with friends and things like that. Learned a lesson, and very early in my career, in my late teens, never manage your mates, right? It's like, because it won't end well, because you have to have a distance between yourself and your staff, So and all through the early career, yes, I was team leading and various things like that. But I was quite reluctant. I didn't really want to do it. I wanted to be tech. I wanted to do the architecture. I wanted tech lead stuff. But a lot of companies I worked for, again, they kept pushing me into leadership positions. Obviously, maybe I had some natural traits. But because I was resistant to it, I probably spent more time in the tech side, right? Longer doing tech. I think if you go too early in your career into management, it can be a bit of an issue because you lose your tech skills too early. And it stood to me over the years then. So maybe halfway through my career, I think it was a Unum I was in, just before HMH, I actually started becoming a dev manager, managing people properly. As a line manager, small team there, went into HMH, managed a very large team there, and then went on to Fleetmatics, but it was reluctant enough, I would say. But because of that, I kept my tech skills up quite a bit, Now, I wouldn't say over those years I was really technical, but I knew how to lay out an architecture. I knew how to bring in new technologies. It's not just a matter of, it works on my machine. How you scale it, how you do market scans, how you work with vendors, how you partner with vendors and stuff like that. I guess I learned a lot of that because I had a very tech background. I knew a lot about how to do DevOps and stuff like that, and that stood to me. So when I got into leadership, I could really understand what engineers were talking about, and I think it helped me get a lot more respect from the engineering, and that's why I was able to build such large groups and have them so successful over the years.
It definitely links back to buy-in, as you say, and getting respect to the engineers and
getting their trust. And engineers are, they can be different if you don't really
over your eyes.
Yeah, if you don't really, if they don't if they don't feel that you really get tech, that you're just a manager, that can be an issue. You'll lose respect and you'll lose trust, and therefore when you want to do real transformation, you won't bring them on a journey, right? Because it kind of seems that you've just read it out of a book, right? Whereas where you've lived it, done it a few times, and you can really talk at their level when they ask you questions about, well, how's it going to work with X? How's it going to work with Y? You're going to go, yeah. And you're able to answer it. They go, all right, yeah, I get it.
Yeah. And when it comes to bringing those engineers on the journey, what qualities do you look for when you're investing in people?
It's not the most technical, right? The real best coders. A lot of times it's the attitude, right? Are they willing to go the extra mile? Are they willing to put the time in? Are they enthusiastic, curious, customer orientated? Because it's very hard for some engineers to be customer orientated. They want to implement tech for tech's sake. And I try to build a culture of being customer orientated in my teams, and that means sometimes when you're talking to engineers, you have to put it in business terms sometimes. This is how we make our money, and this is how it would affect what you're doing right now, or if this fails, how it would affect our end user. And there's some dramatic ones in Fleetmatics, even in Cubic. We have emergency calls, right? So if that goes down, I always use the examples of someone's in the car having a heart attack and they can't make an e-call, or they crash their car and their phone goes to the other side of the car, and they can't get it. But there's crash detection, the e-call comes in, goes out, rings the dispatch, and they will answer and send an ambulance or whatever, right? But if that's not working, that's someone's life you're affecting, right? And in my last company, we used to play videos and of calls, if people get affected. And it had a big impact on the engineers to show them, yes, it might be a slight bit of downtime for you and you have to go and do a root cause analysis of the incident, but that could be someone's life. You know what I mean? That's the type of stuff you have to kind of get through to people sometimes when we're building software, is that it's not all, just, fun and games, right? That there is, there's practical uses of our software out there and people's businesses rely on it. And sometimes people's lives rely on it,
Yeah. Yeah, as you say, thinking about the end user, and that's a
Yeah.
that's a really great way to communicate.
Yeah.
Do you find when it comes to the inevitable conflict in business and how you deal with it, do you feel like you're good with dealing with conflict in business?
Early in my career, probably not. A little bit more hot-headed, I would say. Recent years, I would say, as you get more mature and you get more exposure to execs and stuff, you kind of learn how to be an exec yourself, right? And I've been exec now since 2017, 2016. So, but I would say I would always look for compromise in any dealings I have. I'm a firm believer in the win-win, right? So everyone takes a little bit of pain. So, that if it's a painful situation, you're doing a negotiation with a vendor or something like that. If we all take a little bit of pain, no one goes away disgruntled from the deal. Or if we can find a win-win for both of us, it's even better. I'm also, I'm big into the compromise. I'm a big fan of Simon Sinek, the infinite game that, just because you win doesn't mean someone else has to lose, right? And that kind of mentality has helped me negotiate some tough discussions, I would say, especially when if you look back in my days in Verizon when they bought a number of companies and it was kind of like a merger, and we had a lot of senior people kind of going, will my product win out, will your product win out, that kind of thing. That was a very difficult time to navigate, right? Difficult relationships, but I always tried to get compromise there, as best I could, and that has always helped me.
Yeah. Have you been given a piece of feedback in business that you've taken on board, or what's the best piece of advice you've been given?
Do the job no one else wants. Right? It might sound terrible, and a lot of people won't do that, right? Because I've done some tough jobs in my time, right? Especially in my days at Fleetmatics, they go, oh, we just bought this company. Well, you take them on. You do that, or we've got to go and, do something over here. We have this difficult group that needs transformation, needs turning around, where, they're not performing well. You take them on for a while. It's like, okay, yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, why not? And I get a sense of achievement when I do turn that group around, or when I do integrate a new company and, integrate their platforms and things like that. It's not the prettiest of work, right? At times, it's not the shiny new product that you're developing, that's going to, bring in millions, right? And so I was a former CEO of Verizon Connect, which was the division we were in. He said that to a few of us one time: do the job no one else wants, and if you do that, you'll get more opportunities and more opportunities. And I did, and that was when I was in Fleetmatics. I did that. I did loads of jobs that no one else wanted, and I became a CTO. So I think it worked.
My next question was going to be, what have you learned about yourself during your time in business? But it sounds like that might be the answer to that.
Yeah. Few things around, like the leadership, obviously, it wasn't something that came, I think other people might have thought it came naturally to me, but this goes back to the imposter syndrome. I was, as I said, reluctant. Now I embrace it. I know that I can lead people. I can build a trust with them, and bring them on a journey, right? And I probably think that's where one of my biggest skills is now, is to build a culture and convince people, look, this is the way we're going, and not in a do this or else kind of way, right? I bring them on the journey, and being able to do that, So I think that's one of the main things, is that I don't need to be reluctant anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have someone who serves as, let's say, a sounding board, to bounce ideas off, either at home or even in work?
Yeah. I always try to get somebody like that, or a couple of people, right? It takes a while when you get into a new company to figure that out. You have to figure out, the lay of the landscape. But yeah, I've always had a decent number two, or a couple of number twos that, I would say, the leadership team I had in Verizon Connect was really, really strong. I built up a really good rapport with them, someone I might work with for 9 years plus. And there was a good trust there. And they would challenge me, as well. And I encourage that. Like, I'm not someone that says, yes, 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 you have to say yes to me, right? If I'm wrong and someone tells me I'm wrong, I will change my mind, right? To make a compelling enough argument. And my teams have done that several times. And now I'm building a new leadership team in Cubic. Really enjoying it. Got a decent team there at the moment. I'm starting to build a trust with them, I'm there like since end of October, so it's new, right? Yeah. But we're starting to gel as a team. Really kind of, and there's those days when you come home and you go, yeah, we're really getting it now, with the team. It's like, it's good.
Yeah.
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 A fine line then between, as you say, doing the job that no one wants, but then at the same time saying no and knowing where to, put all your focus.
There is I'm quite a friendly person. You have to strike up a rapport with your team. But there is a line too, right? I mean, there's, because you have to be able to give tough feedback when you need to as well. So I always kind of make sure I don't overstep that line too much, but I would say I enjoy work, and I try to create an atmosphere where people enjoy working with me as well,
Yeah. Yeah. Do you find with even Fleetmatics, looking at, let's say the founders brought it to a certain stage and then they brought in people like yourself, externally to probably put more structure and process in place. Do founders really need to know when to maybe hand over the reins, or
there's a point when a company's evolution where they realize then that we have to bring in talent that's done this before, right? Fleetmatics had got that at a stage when I came in. In fact, the former founder, he said to me I was the first professional he brought in, right? And he was, I don't know about that, but he brought in a VP of engineering as well. And we started to look at the hiring. We started to bring in a lot more senior people that had kind of been on this journey before. And that really transformed us, right? And Cubic's the same, right? I joined in October. We brought in a chief people officer as well. Cubic is a company that, our base product is connectivity. So we sell connectivity to mobile assets. So mainly auto OEMs. We have a good agri business as well. And that's what we do. We take the hassle out of these companies dealing with all the various mobile networks around the world. We're like a layer on top of that. We handle all the regulatory, security, legal, compliance, tax. And we build all the relationships with the MNOs. So when they come to us, they go, right, I want to roll this out globally. We have all the footprint there for them. It's just a matter of integrating them into our platform and rolling out country by country. So it's already there for them. And now we're building, but we were a customer-led organization. It's like any evolution. You start as a small company, as a startup, you have to get revenue in the door quickly. So you do deals, you do custom development, you'll get more and more revenue in, but you then get to a point where you need to start thinking about being a product-led organization, right? So customer-led is you give the customer what they want. So they ask, can you build me X? They'll build you X. Product-led is more, I give them what they need. So in a product-led organization, you have to figure out what they need, because customers a lot of times don't understand that, or don't know what they need until you show them. And that's where we are in Cubic now as well. We're starting to build value-added services on top of our base connectivity. We've got about 3 products we're launching this year, over the course of the year, 3 new ones. And then we've got 2 or 3 more in an innovation pipeline. At some stage this year, we'll come to a decision, go no go business case. So it's an exciting time, but that's the transition we're doing, right? We're hiring in, people who've gone on this journey before. I've certainly done quite a bit in Fleetmatics. We launched a lot of products. Some hit, some don't, But yeah, it was Fleetmatics transitioned from a give the customer what they want kind of company to a very product-led organization. Grew up a very large UX group, a large product group. We started to do a lot more user journeys, customer. We used to get even our engineers to sit on customer calls or go out and visit customers and do journey mapping of all their processes and stuff and see how we could help them and things like that. And that's the pinnacle of a product-led organization. Do a lot of customer user testing, all that type of stuff. Rapid prototyping, things like that.
And as you said, you've been on that journey before. You've probably learned more from your mistakes and your failures than you have from the successes of Fleetmatics.
Yeah, and that when I went to Cubic, a few guys that previous company said to me, well, at least you know all the mistakes now, right? Because you've done this before, but you'll still make mistakes. I mean, we'll still get it wrong because no two business models are the same, no two companies are the same, no two cultures, right? So, I'm sure there's more mistakes ahead of me. But in Fleetmatics, we were scaling and we were acquiring so many companies and all that kind of stuff. It was really rapid. We tried a lot of things. We were naive, I think, as well. Even with the experience I had, I was a bit naive at times. Being ambitious with my roadmaps and how I was going to transform the architecture in 2 years, and then it takes 5 or 6. You know what I mean? Migrating to public cloud. Yeah, I'll be done that in a year. 4 years later, we're still going, right? That kind of, a bit of naivety there and more realism. But you all get into that when you're in an exec table, or we have to have decisions, we have to have results, and sometimes the realism doesn't come into it at times, and then you could realize you get hit in the face with realism fairly quickly. 6 or 8 months into it. So yeah.
With everything that goes on then within a business, all the ups and downs, how do you switch off, or do you ever switch off when you finish work and you go home?
I'm better at it now, I would say. Yeah. I think in the early days of Fleetmatics, I didn't switch off, but that was, I like my holidays. Now, I will say, people who know me know this. I like to go abroad, I like to go to the sun. So I travel 2 or 3 times a year. But that's my downtime, right? And I've got better at switching off on holidays. I check the email once or twice, a week, and I'll answer a few. But sometimes it's when you build up a decent leadership team, you can switch off. And that's part of it too, is you've got to be able to have people you can trust that can run your business for a week while you're away, right? And if you don't have that, then you should really be thinking and looking around your table and going, who's got my back here, right? Who can I lead this business to when I move on, right? Because that's part of it, right? Yeah, so I like hiking. So I have a hiking group I bring out once a month. The mountains. Was up there the other day. It's like snow up there. It's great. Yeah. And that's how I tend to switch off. Go to the gym a couple times a week, and I got better at it, I have to say. I think my hours have probably changed a little bit in the new company, where I have more of my evenings back. Because when you're running a global team from New Zealand to the West Coast to the US, right, you have to do a lot of late night meetings. So that was tough. It was okay during COVID, right? Especially when I took over CTO, and I was easier in COVID. Because what else are you gonna do, right? But yeah, it was tougher then afterwards when things started opening up. And you have to be mindful of people's lives too, But in a team like that, people did step up and help out, and they would come on calls late at night, just to, But you have to be mindful that you have to try and balance it as well.
Yeah, of course. Did you ever experience burnout or get to a stage where maybe you didn't switch off enough earlier in your career?
There were times when you probably went through a bit of a lull, I would say. Yeah, a few months you're going, do I really want to go through this? And sometimes that is fatigue or stuff going on at home, whatever it is, right? And this happens with everybody. I wouldn't say I ever got to a point where I was like totally burnt out. Yeah. Yeah, no, I had a physical issue where I had a head injury, back in my time at HMH, the end of it, right? That was, I went through a bit of a tough time with that, right? constant vertigo and sickness and things like that. So then I decided, but I kept going, actually kept going, but I probably should have looked after myself a little bit more back then, but that was why I joined Fleetmatics at that time, right? We delivered their new platform, set up an architecture function all through this, right? And then it was about 2 years of vertigo and stuff like that. So that was probably the closest I came to burnout, because I was really pushing myself. But with the head injury, it was tough.
Yeah, I'd say so. But yeah, you seem that you've learned to manage it and deal with it well.
Yeah, I came out the other end of that a different person. And COVID as well, I probably look after myself a lot more, keep myself a lot more fit, eat a lot healthier. And that was just a bit of a wake up call,
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Things, yeah.
You need to look after yourself as well, because you become a better leader if you're balanced too, right? There's no point in you coming in all cranky every day as well, because you're not getting to switch off, because you don't build a decent team with that.
Yeah, no, it would affect you. How far do you then plan ahead? Like, what does the future look like for yourself?
Yeah, I do plan ahead quite a bit now. Yeah, I drive people mad with I set goals, right? So I have personal goals. Can I set not a vision board? I do a thing called Ocean Cannery, right? I do this with work, right? So it's like I believe it was invented by the Japanese to rebuild the country after the Second World War, and it's all about alignment and where you want to go, right? With your company, right? Your company or your department or even your life, right? And so I do it at work, and I've been doing it since 2015. We introduced it in Fleetmatics, and it's all about getting alignment. So you set 3-year goals, then 1-year goals. So the 3-year is where you want to be is, let's say, a company in 3 years' time. And then you set a 1-year goal, which is how far in the next 12 months you want to go. And then you have initiatives that you're going to do to actually get to that. So it's all well good having a goal, but if you're not going to put projects behind it, initiatives to go and do it, it's just a line on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
It's an aspiration. And then you measure, are those initiatives you're doing actually working, right? And so I do this with my team. I introduced it to Cubic. We did it quite heavily in Verizon Connect, and it really helped us to excel and become a really top DevOps culture, and so I do that with the team, but I also do it myself. So where do I want to be in 5 years' time? What do I want, or for 3 years' time? What do I want to get from my life? It could be, do I want to be fitter? Do I want to travel more? Whatever it is, right? And I set where I want to go this year, and then what I'm going to do about it. Because you can have all these aspirations again, you're going to have to do something about it. And then I kind of measure, are the things I'm doing working or not?
Keep yourself accountable. Then
fitness is part of it, right? I have quite a few goals around that, around my fitness levels and stuff, and how I want to do it. So and where I want to go with hiking and all that stuff like that. Career, things like that. I don't share it with people. I might share it with my wife, but I don't. Because it's personal to me.
Yeah,
right?
of course.
And but it does help me drive, and I started doing that personally at a personal level during COVID.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Would it get you back on track then if you're having an off day?
You would only look at it once a month or so, right? Or once every few weeks. But subconsciously it probably does, right? There might be a few times where I'd miss going to the gym for a couple of weeks. I got a bit lazy, and then go, I'm going to hit my goals this month, right? So maybe I need to go back and do that.
Yeah, there's definitely power, isn't there, in writing things down and holding yourself accountable.
Yeah, and you do that at work as well, right? And I hold all of my teams accountable for that. We had our Q1 review of all of our metrics a couple of weeks ago. It was really good, actually. It was the first time they've ever done it. It's excellent, So, but it keeps them on track, and it's all about the outcomes. So I'm very much driven by outcomes. So you can do loads of work on something. You have loads of projects and initiatives, but you have to look at what the business outcome of that issue is. So you could end up wasting a lot of energy on projects that are not getting you to your 1-year goal and your 3-year goals.
Yeah.
And lots of companies do that. And that's a big challenge for them. So that's where a lot of the waste of money comes into it, right? and wasted resources. So I kind of try with my teams, what's the outcome you're trying to achieve? And they go, well, we did a lot of work on it this quarter. I say, yeah, but did we achieve the outcome yet? No. Okay, all right. Did a lot of work, but the outcome is what we're trying to get, right? Focus on that. Focus on the goal of what is the business outcome we're trying to achieve, right? And, metrics can be a tough one. Sometimes people can measure a lot of stuff, but it could be measurement for the sake of measurement. It sounds like a good thing to measure, but you have to ask, what is the business outcome behind the measurement in the first place? Okay? Does the measurement show that you're achieving that outcome or not? And if you're not, then you should be thinking about turning the measurement around a little bit to actually hold people accountable to get to that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like having KPIs or whatever just in place for the sake.
And they can also drive the wrong behaviors, so you have to be careful what the behavior the KPI is driving,
Yeah, it's very important. When we wrap up the show, we usually do a couple of quick fire questions. So I have a few here that I'll run by you. First one is something you wish you did earlier in your career.
Probably got into commercial software quicker. I spent half my career in finance. A lot of it was internal systems, Some of it was customer facing, but more for the staff dealing with customers, like branch systems and things like that. And then I struggled to get into commercial software. A lot of companies wouldn't take me on halfway through my career because it's been too long with finance. Trying to get into SaaS companies and things like that was difficult. And, I'm thankful, like, actually HMH took a bit of took a chance on me,
Okay.
Grateful for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there one biggest failure or anything that keeps you up at night in your career?
I wouldn't say I had too many failures. I had a lot of things where I would probably do things different. But not much keeps something up. I sleep quite well these days. It's part of my ocean goals is to get better sleep.
How many hours are you getting a night?
7.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Do you have a biggest inspiration? Has it changed over time? Someone who's been your biggest inspiration?
I am a big fan of Simon Sinek.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Start with why.
The win-win, the infinite game, that kind of stuff. I read his book. I think it makes a lot of sense. And that's probably why, I was talking earlier about getting the win-win and, for you to be happy in a transactional deal with somebody, they don't have to lose. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
We don't have to try and get one over on them. Sometimes in business, we kind of lose our way with that sometimes. Some people are very competitive and some are not. It depends on the person, right? But yeah, I think he talks a lot of sense sometimes. So, yeah. Martin Fowler, I suppose, from an architecture point of view, I was a big fan of his architectures. It helped shape my thinking a little bit in Fleetmatics and how we went from this monolith and, only doing a small amount of releases a month to, thousands of releases a month.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
What's the most important risk you've taken?
The most important, probably the move to Fleetmatics. Yeah. Yeah, it was a risk because I didn't know them and no one really knew them. Like I was fairly well versed in the companies in the Dublin tech sector. I knew a lot of them, right? But these guys were new. No one had heard of them. They had a big PR problem, which was no one in the industry had known who they were, right? I would say Cubic's a little bit like that too, right? In the Dublin tech sector, it's a fantastic company and they have a great story, an Irish success story to tell, not telling it, at the moment. We're getting better. That's why we're on these types of shows, right? Is like, to get out there a little bit. But the Fleetmatics one, and it paid off in spades. I mean, I'm telling you, I look back how grateful I am. You can't buy the experience I got there. Like acquiring 8-9 companies, getting acquired yourself, going merging all these companies together, leading teams of from starting off with 20 people up to 600, and I finished it. It's just it was a whirlwind journey. Yeah, growing a company like that. But yeah, that was one of the biggest ones. Yeah, and yeah, we'll be forever grateful for the opportunity I got there.
Yeah, definitely paid off, as you say.
If you look at Dublin, I think, you know, there's a lot going on in Dublin, but there's a lot of small startups. It's very hard, especially in the big companies. And I've talked to you before about, you know, companies at scale, and you know, and I was moving on. And I was looking for companies at scale. It's hard to get them in Dublin, right? But it's also hard to get leaders that have that experience, because it's hard to get that. And I feel I'm very lucky that there's a handful of people in Dublin that's probably gone through and had the experience that I have, you know, and I feel grateful for that, you know. And best of luck to everyone else that gets that experience too.
Yeah, no, definitely hell of a journey.
Because it helps the industry here and helps the tech sector. And I really want to see the tech sector here go from strength to strength. You know?
Yeah, no, definitely more technology leaders who have, scaled businesses and had that experience like you've had.
Yeah.
What about, I was going to ask, a book or something you've watched maybe that's changed your life, but...
Book, right, really good one. Why Should Anyone Be Led By You? It's a fantastic leadership book. I'd recommend any new leader to read it. It really talks about being authentic as a leader. When you get promoted into a leadership position, sometimes you tend to copy your boss or people around them, right? Authentic leadership, people will trust you and follow you more if you just be yourself. You dress the way you dress, all that, you know. Maybe sometimes people wouldn't copy the way I dress. People comment about my dress sense sometimes, you know. I was confident whether I should wear a hoodie in here today or not, you know. So I said I'd go in between shirt and hoodie.
No, right choice.
Yeah. And so, but yeah.
Being an authentic leader.
Yeah. And it gives practical examples from actual real leaders about how they are authentic and how they run their businesses and stuff. It's a fantastic book.
Okay.
I can't remember the author now, but it's Why Should Anyone Be Led By You? And I recommend it to anyone in Fleetmatics. I used to recommend to a lot of people in my teams. I asked at one stage, I think I asked all my leaders to read it, you know, to help them grow, you know. So
okay, that one's going on the list. Is there any Irish technology leader you'd love to see on this podcast next, or love to hear?
Yeah, I don't know if you get him on or not, but I actually think someone like Peter Mitchell.
Yeah, okay.
Fleetmatics. Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, he has got an amazing story to tell. He's still, as I said, he's still the CEO.
Still there,
yeah. So he would be a good one.
All right, maybe if I name drop you, he might respond to a message.
You never know.
Good man. Well, look, it's been great having.
We left on good terms, so yeah, hopefully.
That's good. He might respond, so. But no, it's been brilliant having you on the podcast.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. You know, I said sorry for it took so long.
We finally got you. Yeah, no, but look, thanks for sharing the journey.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Good man, thanks.
See you.